Greetings, nerds. This is Saint and Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Paul. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, sir. How you doing this Thursday evening?
I'm doing fine. I'm
That's
doing
good.
fine. First podcast episode of April,
Yeah.
and we have some shit to get to. But before we get into all of that comic book nonsense, you watched Adolescence.
Yes, I did.
And and my god, like I'm like 2 weeks removed,
Yeah.
so hopefully I can remember things. But uh okay, so A, how long did it take you to get through it? B, what are your thoughts here, and did it live up to what I told you?
Yeah. So I started it Sunday night and I had to stop myself because it did live up to what you shared as far as just like compelling television. It is I mean, basically at this point, I think it's the most watched thing on Netflix. So people are probably very familiar with it by now. But it's a story about a 13-year-old who was accused of murdering his classmate, and it really explores how that not only has an impact on him, but also his family.
Yeah,
So
the
yeah,
yeah, that's the tagline for what it is, but I don't it's like, and yeah, spoilers after this. Like right now, like we're gonna go into spoilers because if you want the non-spoiler version, go back 2 weeks to when I brought it up.
yeah,
I very, very literal. But I wanted to just tag on because you said pretty much what I said 2 weeks ago. It's like
yeah,
this kid, this 13-year-old kid was accused of murder. Technically speaking, though, that's the first episode, and by the end of it, you already know he did it.
yeah.
So and there's 4 episodes,
Hmm.
and so it's not a who done it.
No,
It's
it's
a
not at all.
why.
Yeah.
Like, why did this happen and how did it happen? And it's also not the how of, like, we never really find out like where the weapon went or how
Nope.
he avoided those cameras. And that's not the point of it. It's
Nope.
more about these different perspectives, and so much, like, whether you go into social media influence on adolescence, whether you go into masculinity
Yeah.
and masculinity culture these days, and
Yep.
just, and then overall parenting, like,
Hmm.
I Will, you're a parent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like this, and I watched this with my own parents,
Yeah.
who all of their kids are grown ass adults right now,
Hmm.
and yet my
Yeah.
mom still, after watching it, I've never quite seen the look on her face where it was like she was disturbed, like
Yeah.
very disturbed. And that's what I said. It's weird how this show, you don't see really anything graphic,
Nope.
yet for some reason it is so disturbing.
Hmm. It is. Yeah. So being a parent, I have one child in college, one still in high school, daughter, son, son's still in high school. With the toxic masculinity and the manosphere, the incel culture and social media, all the cyberbullying that Jamie, the kid who was accused and later does end up pleading guilty to the
Mhm.
crime. Um, that though all those things just resonated with me. I mean, I was gripped from the get. I mean, like you said, just from the premise of what happened, and with the first episode, and it was sort of when the cops bust in, and and
Mhm.
just the whole processing of Jamie through into the getting booked, and the interrogation with the police and his dad, him picking his dad to be his representative
Authorized
and
adult. Yeah.
authorized adult, and the attorney coming there, and just the that process was just, that was probably the closest to the who done it in as far as the procedural things that we're
Yeah.
used to. But I think what really got me was just the moment in that when his dad saw the CCTV footage,
Mm.
that's when I was just like, oh man, I just had such empathy for the father, because
Oh,
his son the whole time he's like, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, and then
yeah.
he sees it in black and white, especially when they put the when they talk
You
about the
see it. Yeah.
when you see it, and he just I mean it's just so crushing as a parent watching, even though
Right.
this is a movie, I mean a series, it's just so crushing. Just like
Mhm.
God forbid, uh, going through that, and then
Well,
yeah.
yeah, just to jump in here before you move on to any other episode.
Yeah.
I I think the scene that got me was when they had to do the strip search.
Mhm.
Because and I
Mm.
think that's why this episode, I mean, we've seen this type of thing before where I like you go and the police you watch the police break in and they get their suspect and read them the rights and all that. But the context of it being a 13-year-old. And
Yeah.
at this point, you're just like the parents, like, well, wait, you're
Wait.
why do you have a like why so many cops here with like firearms
Mhm.
pointing at a 13-year-old kid?
Yeah.
Like, whoa. And then and it's just and then to go into that scene where the father has to watch it and I love how we just sat on his face like that
Mhm.
entire time
Yeah.
and you could see the emotions and just oh that scene got me and
Yeah.
honestly the whole time I'm just like wait a second, this is one shot? This is
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
doing this? Wait,
Yep.
like this is what? We're still here? We're
Mhm.
still like that first episode, if you don't know, which I'm so glad I did not know going into it, that it was all in one shot. Like when you
Yeah.
don't know, you're just like, man, I don't think there's been any edits.
No, I know. I
This feels
know,
like
yeah.
a play.
It
And it
you're
just
totally right, yeah, because I knew, like, I didn't know it was a one shot either
yeah,
until I think I messaged you Sunday night after I was just
right.
like, "I gotta stop," "I gotta
Yeah.
stop, otherwise I'm not gonna function Monday morning." Um, and you told me it was one shot at the time, I was like, "Damn." Yeah.
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 Every episode and it felt so much I mean, shot people have already come out and said they shot this episode X amount of times and they used this take and they did
Mhm.
that. There I've seen now that I've watched it, I've seen so much more behind the scenes. They even of course, second episode features a chase
Yep.
for an accomplice and or who we find out is an accomplice
Yeah.
but to the murder but they use drones
Mhm.
they the amount of rehearsal that had to have occurred for this show for each episode. It's just insane to me. And that's why when I talked about it, I was like, if this show does not win any
Yeah.
Emmys, like I call
Yeah.
foul play because
Totally.
technically this is brilliant.
It is.
It's
This
so
year's yeah.
brilliant.
It is so brilliant. I mean, the second episode, to the point where because another thing too is we see the progression over the months. That was another
Yes.
thing that I liked about it as
Yes.
well. It was that, so we had the moment, and then the second we go forward in time. You have the interviews at school, the whole culture, and actually how, as a parent too, whenever the investigating officer, his
Mhm.
son, it was in this school,
Yep.
and just talking about the Instagram, how, because it was very, it was old, did chuckle because I'm like, okay, yeah, there's some times where I do feel like that, where it's just like, trying to
It's
keep
a
up with
different language.
different language and
Yeah.
stuff. And so I, so it resonated with me as well with that. Sometimes hearing my son, just talking to him about his friends
Yeah.
or and things going on as far as just like that. And so, and so it was very illustrative. And, of course, really, I know I was looking at, I guess, Stephen Graham, who actually played the father who,
Yep.
in this, he talked about how, the manosphere, and of course, they specifically name drop Andrew Tate in this, and
Yep.
that was really when it like
And
all of it
he,
came together. Yeah,
yeah, and Stephen Graham helped write this show.
he did. Yep.
He did, and
Yeah.
I heard he saw a report about a murder and
Hmm.
like a child being accused of it in this, and it's like, and there were a few of them,
Yeah.
and he was instantly like, how is this happening? How
Yeah.
is this a thing in our culture or in
Hmm.
society today? And that's what kind of led to this evolution. But um then in the third episode is my favorite episode.
Mine too.
It's just, and honestly, why I did see randomly on TikTok um a clip from the third episode of Jamie yelling, and somebody was like, note, this is this actor's first performance
Hmm.
ever.
Hmm.
And I found out this was the first episode they shot.
Huh. Really?
This, so because of scheduling, they had to
Okay.
shoot it first.
Okay.
And I think they shot it. For some reason the number 11 comes into my mind, but I don't know if they shot it like, I think they shot it the most times, but they
Okay.
took take 11 out of like 15. But and I have to just say, like, everyone is good in this show. Like,
They are.
everyone
Yeah.
is, the acting is
Yep.
just, and it had to be because of the
Mm.
one shot nature. But the actor who plays Jamie, for this to be his first role and to deliver the performance specifically in episode 3, wow.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, and just his performance, the actress who played
Yes.
the interviewer, uh, her just the things that she, how, when, especially like with the reaction and how she, whenever
Yeah.
he yelled and screamed, and how she just had to just keep it together, and then at the end of the episode when he
The
really
release.
dived,
Mhm.
you know, and just the release that she had, and just, you know, I
Because
mean, yeah, I
we
feel
as
like
the
I was just emotionally drained for her,
right.
um, and it just the feelings that she was having to process, knowing that, she, the questions that she was asking and everything, sitting there with a kid that she knows, murdered someone, but but having to keep that professional distance to be able to get the things that she needed to get out before she could do the independent evaluation was just, yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it's also at the it's he's still 13. Like,
Yeah.
every time the security guard would come in, it would be like, "Are you okay?" And then looking
Mhm.
at Jamie, "Also, are you okay?"
Right.
it's just, it's such an interesting thing that thankfully we don't always talk about, but
Yeah.
like that idea that a child
Mhm.
could commit such an action, and then the adults, you have to put them through this system of justice, and
Right.
yet it's just like, but it's not meant for that. Like, the
Yeah.
justice system is not meant for children. And
No, no.
it's just,
Yeah.
it's such an like a interesting thing. And it's the performance by Jamie works so well,
Mhm.
because we as viewers, I truly believe, are just like the therapist. We're just like, we want to be friends. We think they're like, we think like this, we know he was being bullied technically.
Yeah.
So what happened? And then how does he have such a good dad? And
Yeah.
I'm glad I watched it twice. Like
Mhm.
I watched these 3 episodes twice. I
Okay.
think I've seen the 3rd episode at least 3 times.
Wow.
But because the writing
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
so good.
It is.
Because you already brought up the moment at the end of the 1st episode. So there's a moment and you see the shame of
Hmm.
his father, and his father won't look at him after
Right.
realizing my son A is lying to me and B committed this horrendous act.
Yeah.
So fast forward, and in the 3rd episode, you hear a story about soccer
Yeah.
and him feeling shame from his father, and it's just little seeds. And then you also hear about the grandfather,
You
who
do.
you later hear more about, but from a very different perspective in the 4th episode,
Hmm.
because you find out that his father, like Jamie's father, was abused.
Yep.
Jamie's father did not abuse him,
Right.
but there is some a lineage there
Yeah.
of abuse. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
So when
just
James,
these little things.
it's the little things, yeah, and and really, to yeah, I'm glad you brought up about the grandfather and the things, and and also the perspectives, as you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, because in the third episode we get the perspective of things on the pitch, and then in the fourth episode, we get Dad's perspective on, like, all the things that as a parent that they were trying to get him engaged in, because it was Dad's 50th birthday in the fourth episode.
Mhm.
So he, so the family, this by this point I think it was like 13 months later,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so they're
Because
trying. Yeah.
like, I just wanna point out before I forget, because you brought up the time changes before, and
Mhm.
something worth noting, like, these are very random time differences too. Like, it's
Mhm.
not you, because you literally start one day
Yep.
or day 1, and then the 2nd episode is day 4.
Yeah.
Then the 3rd episode is 7 months later, and then you have, 13 months, I think, is the final
Yeah.
episode, so it's been
Yeah.
over a year, and it's
Yeah.
Dad's birthday, but which I will say, I do have an issue with the 4th episode. I don't think it's as strong, mainly because it takes a while to get to, like, the last
Yeah.
20 minutes are good, but it takes so long to get there, like, it kind of it's the least engaged I was throughout the all 4
I,
episodes.
Yeah, I think the fourth episode, because really, because so because you had things starting with his birthday, things are going well. They do get a card from Jamie. They talk about the drawing that Jamie likes to do, which but then things go sideways when the daughter sees the van, because the dad's
Right,
a plumber,
right.
and they put a slur on there. The slur basically translates to pedophile. And yeah, you're right, it does take a moment to get going. They go to the store, you have a whole conversation where, again, to see how it impacts the family. He's just trying to get some paint to, like, get this crap off his van, and then the clerk in the Home Depot, like, figures out who he is. So he's having to deal with all that, and then they come out, and the kids who did vandalize his van, there's a whole thing where Dad just, like, it was like, to use it was like a kettle just boiling up, and then the
Yeah,
moment
yeah, it
that
just
happens,
I prefer Daredevil tea kettle than that
yeah,
tea
yeah,
kettle.
but I mean, yeah,
It just
true,
it would yeah, but, like, I know what happened, but,
yeah, yeah,
I
well, yeah,
think the payoff at the end of it is really good,
yeah,
because you get the conversation between the parents about,
right,
like, their guilt
hmm,
and reconciliation of, like, their daughter seems to have turned out just fine. So
yeah,
how we created Jamie, but we also created her, like,
yeah,
that nature versus nurture. And did you know, So at the very end of the episode, at the last shot of the entire show, the dad goes into Jamie's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
There's a song playing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard this yet, but the song is a cover. The
Yep.
person singing is the person who plays what is the girl's name who got Katie? Katie.
Katie or Lisa. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not Lisa, it's Katie, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Katie, the actress who played Katie is singing that song.
Really? Huh.
Yep. Yep. It's a little Easter egg in there
Yeah.
because they and they do mention this in I think
Was it?
episode 2.
Yeah.
The female police officer mentions how it's in cases like these, the most frustrating or angry thing is that we pay so much more attention to the perpetrator than the
Mm-hmm.
victim,
Yeah. The
and the
victim. Yeah.
victim is forgotten. And arguably in this show, the victim is a bit of a like there's no interaction. It's not like we have flashbacks. It's all
No.
about the
I mean,
present moment
it,
and the present characters, and she's already dead.
yeah.
So,
I mean,
but
the
they
closest thing we
used her voice at the end there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the closest thing that we get is on the second episode where one of her friends react her reactions to her, to
Mhm.
her getting murdered, and and the other boys who they suspect, I think Brian and some of the other kids. Um, we see the little incident there on the playground with the accomplice.
Yeah,
Um,
but
yeah.
you don't see Katie
But
at
again,
all.
no, you
You
don't. You don't.
hear
You,
you
you
hear about Katie, you've
you hear
never
about her.
you
Yeah.
never see her.
No, other than just the photos at the beginning of each episode where,
Right.
yeah, this the
Well,
school shootings. Yeah.
they're not at each episode. I don't
Yeah.
think Katie's and Jamie's photos are shown in the second episode or the last episode.
I don't think they're not the
They
last
use
episode.
different episodes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
I know they weren't the last episode 'cause I watched that one last night. But yeah,
and Katie's wasn't at in episode no, Katie's is only shown at the beginning of episode 3 because they
okay,
only show Jamie's photo at the beginning of the first episode.
right,
See,
right.
like when I sat down and watched this with my parents, I knew some things and I was catching some things where I was like, let's rewind it, let's go all the way
Yeah,
back because the
yeah,
credits mean something.
yeah, yeah,
It's so funny.
yeah,
Oh man. Well, we could probably talk about so much more, but unfortunately, Will wants to talk about a bunch of other stuff, so we have to get to that,
yeah.
including us watching a 5-minute Superman intro clip. I don't know how to set this up, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the intro is, this week has been CinemaCon, so all week we've had various things, but as far as in the comic book land, but yeah, but today, Tuesday we did get the Superman. We got a new poster for Superman and stuff, and of course there was a panel uh, at CinemaCon that where James Gunn and members of the cast came out and did their usual, like the usual press junket kind of things that you say about the characters that they're playing. But and on Tuesday, folks who were at CinemaCon got to witness the um, little 5 minute teaser that we're about to get Sarah's raw reaction to now because she has not watched it. So we're going to do something new here on Scene and Nerd tonight, given that uh, we Sarah usually stays away from these things. I want to get her unfiltered, honest reaction to a trailer that I watched earlier today. So here we go.
You know I can't hear it, right?
Oh, let me turn the sound on. Here we go.
Crypto, take me home. Home. Crypto. Home.
Superman!
Thank you.
No need to thank us, sir, as we will not appreciate it. We have no consciousness whatsoever. Merely automatons here to serve. Meet 12. She's new.
He looked at me.
14 fractured bones.
Damage to bladder, kidney, large intestine, lungs.
With a healthy dose of yellow sun, we'll have you up and at 'em in no time.
Level 4?
292 times Saharan Prime, please, one.
He's back.
What you think?
It was fine.
Yeah, I felt so.
It was all right. It went
Yeah.
on way too long. Kind of doesn't
Yeah.
make me want to go watch it.
Yeah, it has been a lot of mixed feelings out there. I think in the nerdosphere, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I do I understand some concerns people have about the tone and stuff, especially with Crypto like jumping around Superman when he's all wounded and stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see it Like, it's just
Yeah.
I don't the whole time I'm just thinking, I don't understand how we've gotten to a point where to convince people to go see a movie, we're gonna show them as much of the movie as possible before they actually go see it. Because
Yeah.
all my mind is thinking is like, this better be the first scene in the movie because at this point I feel like I've seen this entire scene twice and I don't want to like wait until
Yeah.
the middle of the movie for it to come up. Granted, that would be an awesome pee break. I mean, for people who have watched it, it's like, oh, I've seen this before and I
Yeah.
know it goes on a bit, so I had plenty of time to go to the bathroom in the middle of this long ass movie. So,
Yeah.
so
But
it's just like and it doesn't give anything away. So honestly, it's a throwaway scene. I mean, it does mention like those robots are autonomous beings, which then
Mhm.
they show a clip of where one of them is clearly cut in half and
Right.
Cal is upset about it, which just tells me, Cal didn't really understand what they meant by autonomous beings, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
it's fine. Will, you do not have to convince me that it's
no,
good.
no, no. I was just more going into some of the visuals. I mean, just to see, like, it was just pretty
Oh,
dope to see the Fortress of Solitude, and also, yeah, it does beg the question to your point about. You're right. I mean, because in the other teaser that we did see, what happened with the robots, and also what is the fight with the kaiju was what got Superman in this pickle to begin with, and also, yeah. So at the end of the day, I know some folks are grumbling Tuesday night that they didn't get the trailer. I was listening to our friends over at A Plus Hero, but if they are going to release something, which I guess this is going to be part of the Minecraft movie this week that's premiering this
mhm.
weekend. I think this was a good clip to put out there, and to your point, yeah, it just expands on what we've already seen before, but I think it leaves a lot of mystery as far as what we're going to, we're not. I'm not going into the theater now like trying to because I've seen so much other like clips from this film, trying to like piece together like, oh, where is this going to come? Like I was, for example, with Captain America 4. So I'm glad they dropped it. I'm glad I didn't have to go to see Minecraft to see this, and I'm looking forward to July 11th. Yeah,
Okay. Well, on that note, I'm gonna speed through this because we actually
yeah,
have like 4
yeah.
other
No,
episodes, and
yeah,
I don't know why you wanted to list all of it, but
no,
and
no, that's all
probably
good.
all of our listeners have heard, but just in case you're living under a rock, because even I heard this news. Spider-Man 4, brand new day, current release date July 31st, 2026.
Yeah,
Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, something that Will told me would come out 3 years ago. Current release date June 4th, 2027. We already did the Superman sneak peek. I don't
yeah,
care about the Marvel panel. We talk Marvel all the time.
yeah.
Nathan Fillion joins the Lanterns. Nobody's surprised.
Right.
Kind of
Yep.
saw it coming. House of
Yep.
Dragons season 3 will start filming and has started filming, excuse me, and is expected to air in 2026 with 8 episodes, and season 4 will be the final season. I feel like we've heard that, but it's glad to have the facts.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Paradise season 2 has begun filming and is expected to air in 2026. And I think that was all of the big headlines about that.
Yep.
All right. So, Daredevil Born Again, episode 7, art for art's sake. Daredevil is back and raises his fist to stop Muse from killing again. Okay. I have a problem with this episode.
Okay.
And my problem is I'm annoyed at Daredevil fans right now
Huh.
because I knew nothing about Muse. I knew nothing about Muse. And then I start watching this season and people are like, we already saw Muse. Oh, do people know who Muse is? And you know what they said? They said Muse is to Daredevil what the Joker is to Batman.
What?
So here's my issue with this episode. If that is the case in comic book lore, then why the fuck did they kill him? Because I was,
Yeah.
after hearing that in the back of my mind, I'm going through like, oh, I can't wait till we really get Muse. And then we got the Muse fight at the end of last episode, going into this episode, and then they kill him. And I'm just like, oh, that was just an arc. And I get it. The main villain is and will always be Kingpin. But
Yeah.
it just, to me, it felt so weird to have this. And honestly, this was a short, or felt like a short ass episode.
Yeah.
And I'm not really complaining about that, but I'm also just like kind of raising my eyebrow, like this. If there was a filler episode this season, to me it was kind of this one, where it just felt like we had to get, like, yes, he put on the soup and faced off against Muse, but in this episode, this, like, the fact Daredevil being back is really the reality, and that's what's really sinking in for Fisk. Like, Fisk knows. Um, and like, that was the big point of this episode. And so, like, that's my problem, is like, I'm not talking about the execution
Mhm.
or the writing or anything. I just, the fact that they, and we've seen this throughout this season, that we had Hector introduced, the white
Mhm.
tiger, only for him to get killed, like set free and then killed. Like, but that was an arc, and it had to get Matt to a certain point in
Mhm.
this whole evolution. And yes, the series is called Daredevil Born Again. So we know the mask is going to be put back on. And now Muse is kind of like the tipping point, and then we're going to see the showdown between Daredevil, this anti-vigilante task force, and ultimately Kingpin himself. But it's just, that kind of bothered me
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a little bit, if you couldn't tell.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Well, I agree with you that this episode, especially after the last two, did not um, it was not as good as the previous two. For me, it was I enjoyed watching it. And it wasn't where I was like mad or felt like I was like where I
Right.
wasted like 40 minutes.
Right.
I mean, but I just felt like a lot of things just progressed way too quickly.
Yeah,
Like,
it was weird.
you know, yeah, I mean, because we got Muse in I think the second or third episode of with the book signing,
Mhm.
as far as, and then in this episode, you know, we have a therapy session,
Yeah.
and so this is in the first therapy session and the last therapy session,
No,
and
it's not their first therapy
I think
session.
it is their first therapy. Yeah,
No, no,
I
no.
think, yeah, he met her at the book signing,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and it was a book signing, and he didn't show up again until this episode because they went into his background as far as like,
Right, right.
taekwondo and all that kind
I
of stuff. Yeah,
remember.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was no like, and if there were other therapy sessions, then to my point,
No, no, I think you're right. I just didn't put
yeah,
that piece together.
yeah,
That, see, and I also am surprised you went there. I thought you were gonna bring up the pacing of like, this whole Matt figuring
oh,
out Muse's next move parallel with the police and Fisk figuring it
no,
out, like, and just how damn long did it take this task force, who we've already been told
yeah,
are like the bad apples. So they don't
hmm,
care about procedure, and yet they followed procedure precisely to get into
yep.
that building. I'm like,
Exactly.
God.
Yeah, we need a warrant. All of a sudden, we need a warrant. Yeah, I'm just joking. Yeah, a kid, but no, no, it's just a overall thing as far as like things just escalated quickly because for me, the muse of it all. I know you were saying that I did know that they took the character in a different direction than what he is in the comics.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but 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 for me, it was just like it didn't. I guess I haven't seen enough of this character to like make it feel like he was a true threat. It was a tell, not show, as far as like with the 60 victims and everything like that. And then we get this session today, and then all of a sudden he's dead. So I don't feel
Yeah.
like I had any, I don't feel like I'm not invested in this character. I just felt like it was just a walking MacGuffin.
Well, it was just a villain of the week.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they're not. I think we're finding like one of the flaws or one of the sore points of this show so far is they have pushed all of their chips
mm,
into Kingpin and Daredevil, that they're not flushing out Hell's Kitchen or New
mm,
York City as being a place with a rogues gallery.
right,
Like we're not seeing all of these different, yes, Vanessa's in the background pulling strings, but that's all connected to Kingpin.
yeah,
So it's just it's not, or I should say Fisk, because technically we are not seeing Kingpin, we're seeing Fisk this
we're seeing
season.
this. Yeah,
So like, and
yeah,
I think that that's a problem. And I kept thinking about what you told me last week about how people were mad about the big MCU revealing Doomsday cast list because it lowers the stakes of Thunderbolts. And I'm like, because there's been plenty of set photos of season 2 of Daredevil released.
oh yeah,
I've
oh
seen
yeah.
them.
I've seen,
Like,
yeah, I was like, I am not putting that in. I'm not putting in our assets as far as the black suit.
right, right. But
Everybody on here who's seen it, so there's no
yeah,
point to it. So.
there's no point because everyone has seen it. And
Yeah,
and and yet we're watching this season as if we haven't. Like I just it's funny what people complain about, and then when they
yeah,
don't, or like
yeah.
they
So,
they conveniently forget
yeah,
something.
yeah,
And it's not like I went into even starting the season thinking, "Oh, Matt's gonna die at the end." No, no, that's not the
no,
point of this at
yeah,
all. I know that there's gonna be a season 2.
yeah. So
Um,
yeah. So another thing that was a quibble for me was how
yeah.
fast Matt and Heather like get to "I love you," because I was like, wait a minute,
Uh,
you know
I go
that
back
would
and forth on that, but I'll hear you out. I'll hear you out
yeah.
on it.
Again, it's just I didn't feel like it was earned. They've only been on a few dates. She's been here and there. Um, I don't know. I just didn't. It just didn't. It just felt like very convenient for me, as far as like we're just doing this because we're at episode 7 and we just got to get this because in this episode we're going to, um, we're going to put her in harm's way. Whether it's
Mhm.
at the first one I thought whenever with the session I did think that she was actually like killed, but we actually learned later that that she did indeed survive. But
Right.
I I I just thought I thought it was just too
Fast.
fast.
Yeah, yeah. I so I didn't have a problem with "I love you." I actually forgot about the "I love you." The weird thing about to me about the whole Heather and Nat of it all in
Mhm.
this specific episode was the "I'm worried about you. These bruises, you weren't
Mhm.
home last night." He kisses her and they fuck.
Yeah.
and 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 I'm just like, I don't, you were mad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, like, to me, there was something very,
Yeah.
um, awkward
Yeah.
about that whole transition, and then even at the end, after it,
Yeah.
she brings it up again,
Mhm.
and I agree, like, if you think about it, it does seem fast, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I do remember last week bringing up their relationship and saying how I'm liking them so
Yeah.
far, and I haven't had a problem with it. I mean, I think maybe it's also to what you said about, like, the fact that she was a damsel in distress at the
Yeah.
end of this. But I felt like they did that more because of the mirroring between him listening to her heartbeat get like
Mhm.
slower and what happened to Foggy and like that PTSD coming all the way back.
Yeah,
And I thought that
that's a good
was
point.
good.
Yeah,
Um
that is a
but
good point.
yeah,
Yeah,
I see your point. Like it's
yeah,
like I feel like they've gone out on 5 dates and she hasn't moved in and yet we're saying I love you, but
yeah, yeah.
apparently he's really
Yep,
good in bed, Matt. Like, well,
yeah,
what can
yeah.
I tell you?
Yeah, I mean, well, we all know Matt's a slut, so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's done the walk of shame before.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, yeah, but, the one thing I did like about the scene, though, that they did connect the pieces was him feeling her face, especially when, to your point about, finding whenever he does go back to the lair to try to, put pieces together, and come across the artwork and stuff. I did like that. So that was that, so I don't, so that was a plus. So I don't want to like, beat up on the scene too much. But and I know, yeah, and I did also like Matt talking about how he felt, fake, and just I think it was a good way to verbalize, like, maybe it was a little meta thing for some of some fans, but also just, where's Matt's journey has been throughout the season, as far as just like the mask. He may not wear a Daredevil mask, but he's wearing another mask right now in his life as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, all right. Well, it was a short episode. It was
Yeah.
I will say, before we get into Spidey, I am very much looking forward to next week's episode because when Defoe and Charlie Cox were asked, like, or Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie
Mhm.
Cox were asked, what episode are you looking forward to the viewers watching most? Like, they ended up naming a lot of episodes, but Charlie's first response was episode 8.
Okay. Hmm.
There's something epic about episode 8, and he made it very clear to me, like, the entire episode
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
very epic. So I'm looking forward very much. I've been kind of in the back, and I saw that, like, weeks ago, so it's been
Okay.
back in my mind. I'm like, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to episode 8. Okay.
Yeah. Before we
Okay.
move to Spidey, yeah, yeah. Before we move to Spidey, I know we touched on Vanessa briefly, but I did just want to ask you, what do you think about the hit that with
Well,
Luca?
apparently I forgot about it, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't even really care at all. To me, it didn't really stand out. Apparently, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there you go. There's the
Alright.
opinion. Yeah, I mean, I just didn't know if, yeah, I'll say from my standpoint, I like the way they set it all up. Whether or not it's she, if she, because Fisk is moving closer to Kingpin-esque territory, but at the same time, with the whole debts and everything else that's going on, maybe that was just their way of taking him out, or, or but Fisk is badass, and he had, Buck right there at the ready to like take him out, and then there was the whole BB. I did like what Daniel did with, the, the BB. Getting her to do his bit, getting her to like give the task force the credit for finding Muse, so that Fisk can get a political win, and leads closer to the whole registration, which I think will lead into some things that we'll see down the road in MCU, maybe with Spider-Man, Brand New Day and stuff. So, or actually, it's already happened with new No Way Home, with him, with the public forgetting people getting masked. But we'll see where things go with that. But that's, yeah, those are one of the two things I just had the thought about with the episode
Okay.
that were good. Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
I'm just trying to remember what happened in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Not to say like it was bad and I completely forgot about it. It's just been a minute since I've watched these 3 episodes.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I watched them Sunday as well. But
Okay, so we have the unicorn unleashed. Peter makes a new friend. Meanwhile, Lonnie finds himself in the sights of a dangerous gang. Peter making a new friend is Harry.
yeah,
So basically, these 3 episodes we get the Harry and Peter dynamic friendship origin story arc, and
mhm,
that includes a third wheel of Nico.
yep,
And Harry Harry exposing Peter's secret to Nico. So now just everyone keeping track.
yeah,
We have Norman, we have Harry, we have Nico.
hmm,
All know the secret. Okay?
yep,
Okay. That's 3.
yep. Maybe the other thing too in the second episode too is when Norman gets up with Ross and he shows him the pad with his Oscorp Spider-Man project. I'm wondering if Peter's name is on that pad to General Ross, to Thunderbolt Ross as well.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I think it was a very clear like this is our asset.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want Peter to sign the Sokovia codes. Like, he doesn't want
True.
the identity to be revealed of who
True.
he is. Like, which we're leading into this Norman viewing Spidey as an asset versus a person, like,
Hmm.
who's wearing a like, I'm really digging this, this dynamic that they've created, and now they've even included Harry
Yeah.
in on it, and
Yeah.
by extension also Nico is coming, where she's trying to figure out her place in all of this, when his new friend tells her like the other side of him,
Yeah.
and I like that, and it's all juxtaposed with the other arc that's happening with the 110th gang
Hmm.
and versus the Scorpions,
Yeah.
and how that leads into the a big showdown, and that features between Scorpion and Spidey, which leads to a lot of images that we've seen before. You got the torn mask, you got him buried in rubble, the like the no-win situation,
Yeah.
and it's done really well, because I like how we're like both Lonnie and Peter are keeping secrets
Yeah.
and a different identity. And like you have Pearl and you have Nico, who are being hurt and making their own decisions that are inadvertently affecting Lonnie and Peter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought that was a great parallel because both Pearl and Nico, they know Peter and Lonnie so well at this point that they could tell
Mhm.
something was holding it back. So, so and for Harry to spill the beans and share that Peter is indeed Spider-Man, especially because you know I like the way that it came out because Peter made it seem like, I share everything with Nico. So, Harry was like, okay, well, since that's the case, I'm gonna tell her. And you know, they have it, and then, but I like the fact that at least we see with Nico, yeah, Harry tries to explain to her why Peter did what he did, but and she's like, okay, I hear that, but I'm still mad at him. So I
Yeah.
do appreciate the fact that they didn't just try to quickly wash over it and just okay, everything's good now. I mean, I think there is going to Peter's going to have to deal with the fallout of him not telling Nico, and also but to that. Speaking of secrets, I think we also, we do see some secrets on Nico's side as well, because when she and Harry were in the street race, and she had this is her first time learning how to drive. That talisman that she had around her neck definitely has some magical properties. So
Yes. Yes.
so there are a lot of secrets floating around there in Queens.
Yeah. I I agree, and we've seen that talisman the whole show, so
Mhm.
it was only a matter of time. But
Yeah.
but I also like Peter and Harry connect because they're both fanboys of
Yep.
a little known character named Captain America.
Yep.
And I love the line where Harry's like, "I read online the real Cap died 4 years ago, and his clone doing this."
Yeah. I
That
like
was
that too.
that
Yeah.
that was great. And then you have, like, the awkward, "Okay, my best friend needs to meet my other best friend, and then we can be
Mhm.
all best friends," and, like, Nico
Yep.
plus Harry equals Peter, like, all of that,
Yeah. Or
and
transitive
they get
property.
into the
Yeah.
room, and it's bonding over, "Oh, all of our moms have died."
That was cool. I was like, "What?
Wow.
That is so on brand for Peter." I was just like,
Yeah, yeah, but
yeah,
there's these little things where the awkward humor,
yeah,
for given the ages of these characters, and I can appreciate how they even manage to empathy is hard because we don't know that much about
mhm,
Harry, but you do get little drops of, like, this realization that, yeah, he's rich, but he's lonely. He's never around people his own age.
yeah,
He's basically put in this ivory tower,
yeah,
and we see how his dad has treated him. Like, it's
yeah,
they are not BFFs. So
yeah,
the fact that now Peter's around and they're able to do this, and now he has Nico, like, I really appreciate how they took the opportunity to make sure that, just like with Nico, like, this is a three-dimensional character who
yeah.
has his own wants and needs, and it's not just like, "I'm rich, so I'm
Right.
living life."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely appreciated those moments. Like, yeah, him, Harry lives literally lives in a fishbowl. I mean,
Right.
and also I think, and to your point, as far as Nico seeing it, yeah, he is a three-dimensional person, and he does have feelings, and and yeah, and just Harry having to deal with like people like seeing him on the street and yeah, yeah. So yeah, those are all. Yeah, I mean, this is such. I'm glad we're watching this show and reviewing this one because I really it's it's I would it would have been a missed opportunity if we hadn't to just to see some good Marvel content because we haven't we've been starved for a little while with just start to finish solid Marvel content and this show so far has to me has been great and even and we do get even other we're getting the name drop. We're not only getting name drops, but even in this series of episodes, we do see Daredevil speaking of
Oh,
a
yeah.
character.
Yep.
Yeah, and the fact that he is investigating things at Oscorp. So, so we do see that fight between Peter and Daredevil, and how much Peter still has to learn about street fighting. I mean, we see that with
Well,
other.
I see that whole interaction is funny because
Yeah,
it's not just that Peter has to learn street fighting, but it's that the the night he's still a kid.
yeah,
And so he's still under the impression that Norman has his best interest at heart.
right, right, yeah,
And he's working with the right people.
hmm,
Like Daredevil's the first person to plant a seed of doubt there that we're going to
yeah,
see grow over the last few episodes that we'll
yeah,
be talking about next week. But it's just that moment of, like, wait a second, like, this adult, I'm always told to trust adults, and now I
hmm,
have 2 that are telling me conflicting things,
yeah,
and we learn that part of the investigation leads into Norman explaining how he's connected to Doc Ock, which this just goes back to the point that I brought up about Daredevil Born Again. It's like,
hmm,
they're killing off their ancillary heroes. They're killing off their ancillary villains, and here with Spidey, they're expanding. We're not just getting name drops. We're
Right.
seeing Doc Ock. We're seeing how we've technically seen his influence throughout all of these episodes with the tech that these
Hmm.
so it's becoming more of a world. And then Doc Ock leads to Scorpion,
Hmm.
like, and granted, Spider-Man is known for its rogues gallery. I
Yep.
mean,
He is.
go
Yeah.
and look at Sony.
Yeah.
Have you seen the recent trash slate of films that don't feature Spider-Man, but all of his bad guys?
Yeah. Yep.
So I understand that with some of these characters, it's easier to do that than with
Yeah.
others. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's also, you can't say that it's easier because we've seen many iterations of Doc Ock. We've
Yep.
seen many iterations of Norman
Yeah.
and Green Goblin, and we haven't even got into Green Goblin yet, but
No,
like,
we did. Yeah, we got the flyer. Yeah.
yeah, we got the
Yeah.
flyer, and it's
Yep.
just
Yeah. And
it's
we.
a different to
Yeah.
finish my point, it's like they're walking a different line, and I think that they have more toys, but
Yeah.
they also are using the toys appropriately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because another like you mentioned, rogues. I mean, like this last week I teased it, and this week we did get the name drop of Tombstone, with Lonnie. So.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and how he got the name. But so, with, from the gang. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, they really are building out the known rogues gallery of Spider-Man, and we're seeing, you know, w- we're seeing the origin stories and the world building, and this new animated iteration of the character, which I'm really, really enjoying. So,
Yeah, and I think, and it just because, I mean, it makes sense that I think while they're expanding here, this
mhm.
world, as you eloquently put, I think the problem that was in Daredevil this week is it felt like we were narrowing,
Yeah.
not expanding. And that it felt like a step back, especially because the previous week, granted those 2 episodes were were what they were, it still felt like an expanding of the world. And it's like with this kind of character, whether it's Daredevil or Spider-Man, you can't have one threat.
No.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't work that way. It's not as engaging. You have to have a lot of threats. And you also and some, yes, can be your villain of the week.
Mhm.
Others, like what you brought up with Lonnie, and what we're seeing is like this progression and this trajectory that leads him down a certain path.
Yeah.
Like, heck, last year we watched a full show about a villain of Batman, okay?
Yep.
And that was my favorite show of the year.
Yep.
So, like, we love watching people evolve,
We
whether
do.
that's into someone good or bad.
Yeah,
Like,
for
as
sure.
long as, yeah, as long as you have a trajectory. So, it's interesting to compare these 2 shows, with how what they're doing in terms of some universes and characters that have already been done before.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I think that is it for us tonight. On that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on all the socials at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me there too at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. You can follow our crew on all the socials at Cena Nerd on Blue Sky at Scene and Nerd. Friend us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Threads at scene_n_nerd. And visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.